my sweet, beautiful internet besties. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we have my July and August reading wrap up, and I think this is my biggest reading wrap up I've done to date. There's something about summer reading that just hits so freaking hard, and I'm kind of sad that it's coming to an end, while at the same time I am looking forward to September and fall reads and all that good stuff. Without further ado, let's get into some of my statistics slash like a breakdown for genres and stuff for the month, and then we'll get into reviewing every single book that I read in July and August. So in the months of July and August, I read 10 books, and then in addition to those 10 books, I had 3 DNFs. 2 of them are like maybe soft DNFs, we'll see, and then one of them is like a firm DNF. So altogether, that brings us to 13 books. And then I also wanted to throw in here my TBRs. How did I do with my monthly TBR? And this is like attempt to read. So if I tried to read a book and I DNF'd it because I didn't like it, it counts. I tried. I don't force myself to read books around here. It's just not what I do. So for my July TBR, I was able to read 4 out of 5 books, which wonderful, very happy with that, so proud. And then for my August TBR, I was able to read 5 out of 5 books. So guys, that's 9 out of 10 total, which, hey, kind of a slay. I'm not even gonna lie. Not even gonna lie. Now that we know what I read, how I did with my TBRs, it's time to jump into the book reviews. Let's do it. Also guys, I had so many, like I had a lot of DNFs, but I also had a lot of 5 stars, like the most I've ever had, I think, in this short of a period of time ever. So get hype. So we're gonna start out with July, and the first book that I read in the month of July is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This book was so good. I'm probably a broken record at this point. I am just loving my reading experience of the Throne of Glass series. If you guys are unfamiliar with this series, basically in book 1, we're following a world famous assassin named Selena, who basically after a series of events gets recruited by the royalty to compete in these trials. And then the series goes from there, and the world really expands. And I feel like what I loved about this book in particular is as we make our way through the entire Throne of Glass series, we're following so many characters in every single book, and that amount of characters that we're following expands literally every single book. And so once you get to this point, we're following so many different characters, and when we got to the end, the crossover between all their POVs was just incredible. Like I felt like I was watching a Disney crossover episode when we got to the end of this book, because we got to see how all of these characters who, when you start the book in the series, are very separate from each other, and then they all come together. It was so good. I gave this 5 stars, and it is like tied for top spot in my favorite book in the Throne of Glass series. I love this. The next book I read on my Kindle, I read Reckless by Elsie Silver. This book is Kindle Unlimited, and it is the 4th book in the Chestnut Spring series, and this is a cowboy romance. And as I've recently moved to Texas, I'm trying to really embrace the cowboy aesthetic, and so this one was really fun for me, and it was easily my favorite in the series so far. In this book, we are following Willa and Theo. Willa is a doctor, and Theo is a famous bull rider. And Willa, in the books leading up to this one, she becomes known as being very cold, very unlikable, and generally is a very misunderstood character. I did not like her at all until I got to her book, and then you really get to understand who she is as a person. And then Theo, oh my God, acts of service king. I loved him. The way that he was able to show Willa how much he cared for her and working through all the issues that they both have. I loved it. It was so good. I'm not gonna go into the tropes or anything, because sometimes I feel like it's more of a surprise. Like it's more fun if it's more of a surprise, but I did really enjoy this book. I decided to give it a 4.5, and yeah, it's by far my favorite in the series. Then next we had my first DNF of the month, and I'm not sure if this is a soft DNF or a hard DNF. I'm not sure yet, haven't decided. The next book that I decided to pick up was Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. And this was a bit of a surprise for me, because this is the 2nd book in the Knock 'Em Out trilogy, and I personally really enjoyed book 1 in this series. So to pick up the 2nd one and to like not like it so strongly to the point where I literally DNF'd it, did not see that coming at all. Basically in this story, we follow Nash and Lena, and Nash is kind of picking up the pieces of his life from And Nash is basically picking up the pieces of his life that we watched happen at the end of book 1. So some traumatic things did happen to him. He was involved in some kind of crazy stuff. And so now he's dealing with anxiety, depression, PTSD, and has to work through that. And then we're also following Lena, who is a very lively, spunky, fun protagonist. And I really liked the two as characters. I liked the writing. What really, really irked me, and the reason that I physically could not go on with this book, again, I'm open to picking it back up again because I want to read the third book in the series, and they're very reliant on each other. You can't read them out of order, is because Nash is struggling with a lot of things, and he puts Lena in a position where he kind of relies on her to the point where I felt like Lena didn't have a choice in the matter. And for me, I'm like, Nash, you need to see a therapist. Don't put that on Lena. And that dynamic, I literally could not stand it. It was very difficult for me to read. I was like, it is not her responsibility, especially when you guys don't really know each other, for her to take care of you. Like, I just didn't think it was fair to Lena at all as early on in the relationship that it was happening, and I just did not like that behavior. I was just like, go see a therapist. I would also like to say I got 300 pages into this book out of like 600. So I really tried. I basically read an entire book, if you think about it. Then I picked up a novella. I read Powerful by Lauren Roberts, and this is, I guess you would say, book 1.5, is that right? In the Powerless trilogy. And in this book, we are following the exact same events of book 1, but from a different character's perspective. So in this book, we're following Adina, who is the protagonist's bestie, okay? And I love Adina. I think she's so cute, so sweet. And honestly, I had very similar feelings to the way that I felt about Powerless. I gave that book 3 stars. I'm giving Powerful 3 stars. They just don't really do anything for me. I feel like it's very tropey, and it feels very much like things I've read before. And while it's cute and the romantic tension is so good in both of these books, okay, so good, I just feel like I couldn't care enough. I don't know. I just have not loved this world. But what's interesting is I really enjoy the writing style. The characters are really, really well developed and fleshed out. The plot is generally pretty good, but for some reason, I just have a hard time connecting to these books, and I think it's just because it feels like things that I've seen before, and it's not bringing anything new. With that said, though, I still recommend this series because so many people love them. I just think I'm irked by the fact that these books feel like other books in a different font, if that makes any sense. I don't recommend reading this book before bed, or at least I don't recommend finishing this book before bed. If you know, you know. Okay, so that's just take it from me. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't read it before bed. Oh, and I also forgot to say, I just felt like this novella moved too quickly. Like, there were too many time jumps that it needed to be a full book. And that is my opinion. Then next, I picked up a classic. I read 1984 by George Orwell, and this was my first George Orwell. I feel like everyone and their mother read this book in school. I don't know what my English classes were doing. I read Jurassic Park in school. Don't know why. Don't even ask me. I have no idea. So I never read this book. And so I picked this one up, and I really liked it more than I thought that I was going to. 1984 is a futuristic, for the time that it was written, futuristic dystopian novel where we're looking at this world where this persona, I guess you would say, called Big Brother is watching over everyone. You guys have heard the expression Big Brother is watching you. Yeah, that's this book. People are essentially stripped of their individuality, their emotion, even like what they know. Like, history is written, quite literally written by the government. They change facts, they change the past, and it's really, really interesting. And again, this government is constantly watching you. You have no privacy. We're following our main character, Winston, and Winston's like, this is kind of messed up, the way that this whole society is run. He's like, I don't trust the government because I work for the government, but I also don't trust my own mind because it opposes everything that you read about that's published and produced by the government. So he's kind of like questioning this world around him, and we watch him kind of cope and come to terms with this opposition, I guess would be the best word, for how he's feeling. And again, I really loved following Winston as a character. However, there was a period in the book, and if you've read it, you know, where we move away from Winston and we get a little bit more into a political discussion and conversation and evaluation of the way that things are being done. And I did get a little bored in that part, I'm not even gonna lie to you, but the rest I really liked. And I don't rate classics anymore. I feel like I used to, but it's just not fair. I feel like they're on a completely different scale. But yeah, this was really good and I would recommend it, and it has motivated me to read more of his books. So that is my plan. Okay, this is so fun. Now we're getting into territory of books that I freaking am obsessed with. I don't know who I was before I read some of these books, okay? The next book that I picked up was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and this is my first Abby Jimenez book, and I will never be the same. I will never be the same. This book is a romance story following Alexis and Daniel. Alexis is a doctor at this very renowned hospital, and her family is very well known in the medical space. And then we're also following Daniel, who lives in this teeny tiny little town that like everyone works all these multiple jobs and odd jobs because there's not enough people to have like, you know, one job per person. It's really, really cute. And Daniel may or may not have a goat. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And their romance was so, so sweet. The meet cute in the beginning was adorable. I feel like I've heard people say that Abby Jimenez is known for that, like her meet cutes. So true. I loved it. It was incredible. And I gave this book 5 stars. I felt like we had the perfect amount of light and fun, witty banter in here, but our characters also felt real and they had so much depth, and I felt like they could exist in the real world. And the problems that these characters were facing in their relationship, the reason that they couldn't be together, felt so founded in things that could actually happen. And I had no idea how Abby Jimenez was gonna wrap this book up. Like, I had no clue. And I feel like in a romance, that's not usually the case. You can kind of figure it out. I do feel like the end wrapped up a little bit quicker than I would have preferred. Like, if I could change anything about this book, I would have loved to see joy and happiness with our characters for a little bit longer, but that's not enough to knock it down to anything below a 5 star. I loved this book so much, and if you are considering picking up Abby Jimenez, do it. I don't know why I waited so long. I really, really don't. Next up, we had another DNF, another soft, no, this is my firm DNF. I just lied to you, I'm so sorry. My firm DNF. The next book that I picked up was Act Your Age, Eve Brown, and guys, I did not like this book at all. And this is I don't know, it's in the Brown Sisters trilogy, and unfortunately, I just don't think that this series is for me. I read the first book in this series when I was in college years ago, and I gave it, I think, around a 3 star, and I figured if I pick up another book by Talia Hibbert, it's only fair to the author. I didn't like this one either, and tragic, unfortunate. I really want to love these books, I do. And we're basically following Eve, who is getting cut off by her parents because she can't get her life together. And then we're also following our male main character, whose name I don't remember. He is looking to hire a chef at his inn, if that makes sense. I don't even know, like, I just did not like Eve's character, and I also didn't like our male main character at all. And it's dual POV, and so I just didn't enjoy being in their minds. I felt like we were aiming for these really cute, quirky characters, but like it was too cute and quirky for me, okay? It didn't feel realistic, and I felt like I could tell that Talia Hibbert is leaving room for a lot of character growth. Like, I can see that both of these characters are flawed and they're gonna grow so much by the end of the book, but I just wasn't willing to put in the work at the beginning of the book to wait for them to grow and change. So this is a firm DNF. I don't think I'll be picking up more books in this series. There's only one left in the series, so definitely won't be doing that. I didn't love this, but if you do, if this is your cup of tea, that is wonderful. I just personally did not connect with it. Remember when I said that we had some incredible books in this lineup? We have another one, so I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready. The next book that I decided to pick up was The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and this, 6 stars. Not even a 5, a freaking 6. Like, this is in my infinity star, better than a 5 star. It is everything I look for in a book. In this book, we're following 2 characters. We're following Clementine and Ewan, and Clementine has inherited a New York apartment from her late aunt. And this apartment, she was always told that it was a little bit magical, but of course, as you grow up, you don't think it's magical anymore. But it turns out that this apartment is in fact magical, and she learns that the hard way because it, whenever it wants to, will slip in time 7 years. And so one day, the apartment slips back in time 7 years, and Clementine finds none other than our male main character, Ewan, crashing in her aunt's apartment. And it is a beautiful story, and I felt like the way that Ashley Poston was able to navigate this magical realism element was absolutely seamless. I was so impressed by the way that she was able to weave in this slight time travel element. And our characters, again, I love good characters when they're fleshed out, and it was, oh my God. I cried so many times. I laughed so many times. And quite honestly, after reading this book, Clementine works in the publishing industry and Ewan is a chef. And so anytime I go to like a restaurant or a bookstore or anything, this is what I'm thinking about now. Any restaurant, literally I'm like, oh, Ewan. Like, it has changed my brain chemistry, and I don't know who I was before this. So yeah, I had already read The Dead Romantics by this author, and I'm so happy that I picked this up because this book just lives in my heart constantly, and I'm so happy that I picked this up. 5, 6, 10 infinity stars. Go read this if you haven't. If you're gonna take anything away from this video, it's this. Then next, I picked up Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This is the 5th and final book in the Chestnut Spring series. And also, we've now entered into August. I don't know when we did that, but at some point we did transition into the month of August. I forgot to say that before. And this book, again, it's a cowboy romance. We're following Bo and Bailey. So Bo is another brother in this family. And Bailey is the sister in the Jensen family. So basically there's this one family in town that's like kind of wild, kind of rowdy. They cause a lot of problems, and it's like the boys, and then Bailey's their sister. So she kind of gets associated with all this bad stuff that they do, but she's really actually very sweet and smart and intelligent and kind and all that good stuff. And so Bo has recently come back from the military, and he is dealing again with PTSD, depression, anxiety, like all of the things. And you get to watch them come together. And the tropes, again, I try not to say tropes in romance books too much because I feel like sometimes I like to not know. It's really fun, and this one is really fun if you don't know what the trope is. They kind of make this little agreement and go from there to help each other out, and it's really cute and sweet. These books are very spicy. They don't feel the most realistic to me. Like, none of these books feel realistic at all. Like, our characters, so dramatic. The family, so dramatic. Like, none of this stuff I don't think would ever happen. But with that said, it's a good time. And so I gave this book a 3.75. I liked it. It probably sits somewhere in the middle. I think if I had to rank all the books in this series, this would take 3rd spot. I liked it. I didn't love it. Felt kind of like it followed the same recipe of all the other books in this series. But again, it was a good time, and I'm like kind of bittersweet that I finished this series. I have been reading it for the last several months, and so kind of crazy that it's over. I think I would give this series a 4-star overall rating if I had to like rate the whole series. Can you guys tell I was in my summer romance era? I feel like as the summer was ending, all I wanted to do was read romance. And I'm like not sorry about it at all. I was reaching a point at this time of the month where I had read so many books from new authors that I was learning that I was obsessed with that I just like needed more of their work immediately. So we're gonna have some repeat authors in this video, and I just like needed to consume anything that they've produced. And so the next book that I decided to pick up was a novel love story by Ashley Poston. This is Ashley Poston's newest release. And so now I have read Ashley Poston's 3 most recent releases. So The Dead Romantics, The 7-Year Slip, and A Novel Love Story. And I had heard some very mixed reviews for this book. Great, camera's about to fill up. 1 second. My camera storage just filled up. I'm filming like a million videos right now, so hopefully this doesn't fill up again. But basically in this book, we are following Eileen and Anders. And at the beginning of this book, Eileen is driving, her car breaks down. And long story short, it turns out that she has broken down in her favorite small town romance book series. I mean, doesn't that premise just sound so dreamy to you guys? I heard that and I was like, Ashley Poston strikes again. I really enjoyed this book. I feel like I definitely err on the side of enjoying versus being disappointed by this. I feel like a lot of the reviews that I heard were very polarizing. Like some people really were disappointed. Other people were like, it's a 6-star read. And for me, I am rating this book a 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I felt like the premise was so wonderful. This was definitely a cozier book, focused a lot on friendship and finding yourself and all of that good stuff. I really, really enjoyed it. However, as we progressed into the story, I felt like the romance kind of picked up on a dime. There wasn't a lot of those like slower, smaller moments that make the romance more believable. Like it kind of just sprouted, in my opinion. And also I felt like because Eileen was getting trapped in her favorite romance world, we didn't have the same connection to the characters in this book that she does. So I was kind of trying to keep track of all these different characters that are in this small town, and it was kind of difficult for me to do, to be completely honest. But for Eileen, it was so easy because this is her favorite book and she's like obsessed with them, she loves them. But I, as the reader, don't have that same history. And so I feel like that element kind of slowed the book down for me a little bit. And then again, I just didn't quite feel the romance, and how the romance kind of wrapped up and ended at the end wasn't my favorite either. But again, the premise and the story and the vibes were so good. And there's something to me just so comforting about Ashley Poston's writing. This woman is truly one of my favorite authors now. She has been propelled to probably top 5. Like I love her books, and I'm so glad that I read 2 of her books in the last 2 months. They were amazing. Okay, besties, we're getting to the end. This is the last DNF that I have to talk about. So for literally the last 2 freaking months, okay, I have been trying to get through Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, and I read Fourth Wing. She's right here. And I loved it. I thought it was so good. I gave it like a 4.5 stars. So good. I thought I had a great time. I understood the hype. And then I pick up Iron Flame. And guys, Violet is okay, basically, let me slow down for a second. In this world, we are basically following Violet, who has been raised her entire life as a scribe. And at the beginning of the book, it turns out that she's being forced to enter the Writer's Quadrant, which basically means that she has to train to become a dragon rider and defend her country, whatever, her world, whatever it is in this series. Problem is, you have to survive the whole training process to like actually do that. And so that's what we're following in book 1. I won't say what's going on in book 2, but Violet is driving me crazy. Everyone just needs to talk to each other. And there's a lot of logical flaws in this book. Like, why would you send your bravest people to die when you need every single person that you can get to defend your school and again, your world? Like, it makes no sense. I just feel like as I was reading Iron Flame, we're on this like constant, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like everything is high stress all the time. So I'm I don't even know how to explain it. And so I've been trying to finish this book for months. I started it probably at the beginning, middle of 2024. And I literally can't finish it. And so I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Like, this might have to be a hard DNF. I think I'm like 55% of the way through it now. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm really not enjoying it. Let me know what you guys thought, because again, I'm like in the middle-ish and really struggling. I don't feel great about it. I really don't. I wanted to finish that book so bad, but I literally can't. Like, I've tried for months. Then the final book that I read in August, I read this book in literally 2 days. I finished it yesterday morning. And that book, I think a lot of people are gonna be really happy with this. That book is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I kept going. I read more of her books. I don't even know what to say about this book. I had already filmed my September TBR video and also gotten through my entire August TBR. And this was a book that I really wanted to read in September, but didn't get picked in my video. And I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I have 2 days left of August. I'm just gonna go for it. And so I picked this book up, and we are following the story of Brianna and Jacob. They're both ER doctors. They work in the ER, and Brianna has experienced a lot of traumatic things in her relationship history, and Jacob really struggles with social anxiety. And each of these things and qualities are very foundational in the establishment of their 2 characters. And so they come together, and literally like loved this book so much. Like their relationship spoke to my soul in a way that I have not felt about other books before. They felt so perfectly matched to me. And I said this in another video that hasn't come out yet, but I literally for so long was like, these two characters just need to kiss already. Like I physically could not wait for them to get together because I was just rooting for them so strongly and so deeply. I loved them so much. And my rating I feel very confused about because the first 75% of this book is like one of the best books that I've ever read in my entire life. Abby Jimenez was doing every single thing that I needed her to do. It was giving what it needed to give. I stayed up late reading this book. I never do that. And then we got to the like last 25% and there was a lot of whiplash for me. Again, I'm not going to say what that is because I don't want to ruin anyone's experience, but basically it felt like everything was good and then it was bad and then it was good and we were happy and we were sad and like I just couldn't take it. Like I was like, I just want these two people to figure their stuff out. And on the one hand, I really appreciated it because when you have characters that are really struggling with things deep down, it's messy. It's not like you can just tie a bow on it and you work through your trauma immediately and like you're fine. Like I get it. I understand why they weren't able to just figure it out quickly. So I appreciate that. But on the other hand, I was so frustrated and I was not enjoying my time because I genuinely just wanted joy and happiness for our characters and it was taking so long to find it. I don't know. So this is like unrated, like it's somewhere between a 4.5 and a 5. I don't know. I can't stop thinking about it at all. Like my brain is consumed by it every single second of every single day. And so I don't know where that leaves me because I was in the trenches for the last 25% of this book, but I loved more than I've loved anything in my life. It's probably a little dramatic, but you know what I mean. The first majority of this book. So like, I don't know what to do, but I loved it. The takeaway, please read it. It was amazing and I'm so glad that I read it. Okay, besties, those are all of the books that I have to talk about today. But before I let you go, I wanted to do a few shout outs to my beautiful, wonderful, lovely subscribers who I love so much. And first, I wanted to give a shout out to @Victoria_Morgan, who told me that they loved Animal Farm and that I need to read it. And I'm planning to read it in September. So this was absolutely perfect. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to @Aurelie Mueller, who was really hyping me up to read The Bee Sting. This book has been on my TBR for simply way too long, and I really needed the support to start it and get to it. And honestly, this comment really helped me. So thank you so much. Hopefully I'll pick that up soon. But yeah, okay, I think that's gonna be it from me. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day and a wonderful reading month, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!